Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. John Owen talks about sports and movies. Thank you for checking out today's video. I always appreciate the support. Let's get into it. Wow, what a just absolutely massive day in the NFL. I'd probably say the busiest day probably ever in the history of the NFL, as definitely as long as I remember. But Aaron Rodgers announced he is going to stay in Green Bay, and Russell Wilson is going to get traded to the Broncos. So, it's just a normal Tuesday in the NFL. So, I'm going to react to both of these things and basically what it means for the rest of the league as a bunch of teams are in the market for a quarterback. Make sure you guys leave your thoughts and comments down below. What did you guys think about Aaron Rodgers staying, the Russell Wilson trade, and the other teams that I'm going to discuss today? With all that being said, let's get into the video. First off, I'm going to talk about Aaron Rodgers. This is honestly what I expected Aaron Rodgers to do. It just made a lot of sense for him to stay simply because he's got a lot of good relationships already in Green Bay. Not necessarily with the Green Bay front office, but he really likes Matt LaFleur. Devontae Adams is there. There's a few other guys in the locker room he really likes. And Aaron Rodgers is super picky, so you got to kind of make sure that you, or for him at least, it's important that he stays somewhere where he doesn't have to really rebuild those relationships. That doesn't seem to be something he's too keen on doing, is building new ones and stuff like that. So I think that was really kind of a big factor. Also, the NFC North is kind of a dumpster fire outside of Green Bay. Chicago and Detroit are rebuilding. Minnesota is declining. And honestly, the NFC is slowly declining, surely and slowly. The amount of elite quarterbacks in the NFC is slowly dropping as the AFC gets more and more loaded at quarterback. So I really do believe that it's just going to be really easy for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers to coast to number one seed and have an easier path to the Super Bowl. And I think Aaron Rodgers recognizes that. I think the next step for the Packers is to go out and basically just go get Aaron Rodgers more cheap weapons at the draft. This is a good receiver class. They could go get, any of the top receivers that are available at the spot. And I think Aaron Rodgers would be really, really happy. I don't know exactly what the deal is for his contract at the time of this recording. That hasn't been announced yet. But Aaron Rodgers, as long as they go and get him another weapon, I think that kind of alleviate some of their problems that they ran into, especially if you watch the San Francisco 49ers game. They didn't really have a second option that Aaron Rodgers was comfortable with. And so if they went out and got a weapon for A-Rod, another one outside of Devontae Adams, I think the Packers are going to have a really, really good shot of winning the NFC next year. But I think kind of the big one is Russell Wilson to the Broncos. First off, let's just talk about the AFC West for a hot second. It is now super, super, super loaded with talent. I mean, when you think about it, Mahomes, Herbert, Russell Wilson, and Derek Carr. I mean, that's easily the best division in football. And when you talk about Derek Carr, who's probably a top or a borderline top 10 quarterback, and he's the worst quarterback in that division, you're super, super stacked. So I think the Broncos recognize that they've got a great roster filled with a lot of young weapons, and they felt like they were a quarterback away, and they went and got one. They went and got Russell Wilson, who I believe is a top 5 quarterback in the league, and stuff like that. And so they went out, or maybe not top 5, but that top 6 or 7 range. They went out and got their guy who they believed, and honestly, yeah, they kind of gave up a little bit, but I mean, to only give up 2 first-round picks and get Russell Wilson, I think is really good. Now, they did give up 2 second-round picks. Noah Fant, who's an emerging star tight end. Shelby Harris, who's one of their good defensive linemen. Andrew Luck, who wasn't one of their experimental quarterbacks. But for Russell Wilson, the only thing people are really going to worry about, unless Noah Fant turns into like the greatest tight end of all time, is those 2 first-round picks. And honestly, to give up basically 4 picks and a start and 2 starters for Russell Wilson seems like a really, really great swap for me. And I really didn't expect this because I had heard the Seahawks had no plans on trading Russell Wilson, but clearly that was false. That was kind of a diversion, kind of a smoke screen. But I'm here for it, and this news is really, really exciting. I think the gap between the AFC and the NFC is increasingly getting larger. I mean, when you think about it, if you think about it, 6 out of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league are in the AFC now, with Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson. I'm not naming necessarily in order, but with all that, I think it's a really super exciting time for the AFC just as a conference because of the elite quarterback play. Now, what does that mean for the rest of the teams of the league and the rest of the quarterback market? So basically, I've got like this tier list right here. So we're now going to move on to the second part of our video. The teams up top, they have their guy. You've got the teams like the Chiefs and the Bills and the Ravens and the Chargers, who have guys like have their young guns like Mahomes and Allen and Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert and stuff like that. Arizona's got Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow and the Bengals, Hurts and the Eagles, Trey Lance, and the 49ers. And you've got some teams who have committed to their quarterback for at least one more year, like the Browns and the Falcons with Baker Mayfield and Matt Ryan, respectively. Derek Carr is probably going to be there for a while. And the Jets and the Jaguars and the Eagles and the Bears have just drafted a quarterback within the last few years that they're committed to still. And then you got the Broncos and the Packers, who the Packers were basically just waiting on A-Rod, and the Broncos went out and got their guy in Russell Wilson. The next tier down is they could look into an upgrade, but unlikely. I really don't think the Vikings are going to move off of Kirk Cousins. I really don't know what a better option than Kirk Cousins could be unless they pull an out-of-the-blue blockbuster. Same thing with Miami. I really don't think they're going to try to upgrade over to this year. The team that's interesting in this tier is the Colts. They have been non-committal to Carson Wentz, but I'll get that later in the video. The teams with the bridge guy, they definitely are not satisfied with the quarterback they have right now, but they're just kind of waiting. They're not really sure. They're kind of rebuilding. The Lions, Jared Goff, Texans, Davis Mills. I think the Giants are going to give Daniel Jones one last run. And the Seahawks just traded away Russell Wilson, so they're going to have to boot scoot boogie and figure out like what they're going to do at the quarterback position. But the teams that are really, really intriguing and are in the market for a quarterback for sure, in my opinion, are the Buccaneers, the Panthers, the Commanders. Sorry I didn't switch that Redskins logo. I apologize for that. The Saints and the Steelers. And so basically, I am going to break down in the next part of the video who I think A, some options are, and B, who these teams are going to fill their slots with. So I think the most likely options now that Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers are officially off the market are the quarterbacks in the draft class: Jimmy G, Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, Teddy Bridgewater, Carson Wentz, Trubisky, and if Deshaun Watson can get all his stuff cleared, he's going to be a fascinating option as well to see where he ends up. I really don't think this is a terrible quarterback class, but it's definitely not like the single greatest class of all time. So I think people are going to be a little hesitant to draft one of these guys as their franchise guy. But they're always going to draft quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are never not going to get drafted. The positional value is just too high. I think Jimmy G, I would also be hesitant on him just because of his new shoulder surgery. He's always tends to be hurt. Jameis Winston and Teddy Bridgewater are going to be really, really interesting options, I believe. We're going to get the Carson Wentz and Mitch Trubisky here in a second. And I think Deshaun Watson would be a significant upgrade for any team if he can get cleared and if he's going to play this next year. So if we look at all the teams, the first team we're going to talk about is the Colts, and I really do think that they are going to stay with Carson Wentz. He threw 27 touchdowns and 7 picks last year. I know some of those picks were very, very costly, and he's kind of reckless with the ball at times. But there's not very many people with his arm talent and mobility, so I think the Colts can deal with his recklessness in kind of a weaker AFC South. If they were in the AFC West, I definitely could see them, or the AFC North, really trying to go for it and stuff like that. But in the AFC South, which is a little more mediocre, you can kind of sit on it. Next is the Saints. So I think Taysom Hill, they're just paying him too much money. So I think he'll definitely be around. He may be the week 1 starter, but honestly, if I was the Saints, I would be super interested in bringing back Teddy Bridgewater. He's a capable quarterback. You're not really sure what the other NFC South teams are going to be at quarterback, so Teddy Bridgewater might be a good enough quarterback to win the division or to compete for a division title, as long as they can kind of figure out the cap situation as well. So I would definitely look into bringing back Teddy Bridgewater. Next, we're going to talk about the Steelers. I think what the Steelers should probably do, what they're going to do, is they're going to sign one of the veterans off the market and then draft a quarterback. I really think Jameis Winston would probably be a good fit. He kind of plays similar to how Big Ben, he's a big, strong guy with a big arm and stuff like that. Maybe a little reckless with the ball, but you would have someone who can actually push the ball down the field and maximize the Steelers receivers' talents. Honestly, if I were the Saints, I would try to keep Jameis Winston, but there does not seem to be a lot of mutual attraction between the two of them. So that's why I think the Steelers are going to end up with him. And I think, honestly, if you can let Malik Willis sit for a year, I think he could be a super, super, super intriguing option. I think he's a big, strong guy with a great arm, great mobility. He's gonna clean up kind of some of his accuracy and recognition, but if given time to sit behind a smart veteran quarterback like Jameis Winston, I think you could have something really, really special, Malik Willis. Kind of next, I think Kenny Pickett is going to be the first quarterback off the board. I think the early teens is kind of the best draft range for Kenny Pickett. I don't think I draft him in the top 10. I don't think I draft any of these quarterbacks in the top 10 and stuff like that. But I think him going to the Commanders at 11 would make a lot of sense. And kind of a weaker NFC just in general, and definitely a weaker NFC East. I know that you got the Cowboys and the Eagles, but they're always super inconsistent. You never know with the Cowboys or the Eagles, quite frankly. If you can get a smart veteran guy who's going to be 23 years old, 24 years old when he enters the league, and who's got experience already, and can just come in and just kind of not be the greatest quarterback in the world, but definitely be suitable and be an upgrade over what they have in Tyler Heinicke and Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think that would work out really well. Now, our last two NFC South teams is where it gets interesting. I really do think the Bucs should probably make a play for Jimmy G. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is definitely good enough of a quarterback to win that division, as long as the Saints or the Panthers don't make a significant jump and upgrade at the quarterback position. The Bucs are loaded. They just tagged Chris Godwin. They still have Mike Evans. I don't think they'll be able to retain everybody, but if they can get most of that band back together, that division is admittedly not the greatest. And so I think that Jimmy G to the Bucs makes a lot of sense. And then finally, the Panthers. I think Sam Darnold probably has a fair shot of being the starter week one, but I really do think the Panthers are probably the best suitor and make the most sense for Deshaun Watson. There seems to be mutual interest between Deshaun Watson and the Panthers and stuff like that. And I really think that Deshaun Watson, adding Deshaun Watson to that roster, even if you had to give up maybe Christian McCaffrey or one of the receivers, I still think that team is probably good enough to win the NFC South for sure, especially with the Saints cap situation and the uncertainty that the Bucs have at quarterback, and the Falcons honestly just not being that good, just straight up. So I think that's basically what the rest of the NFL teams that are looking to upgrade at quarterback potentially are going to do, but that's just my opinion. Thank you guys for checking out today's video. I always appreciate the support. Make sure you guys check out the link content and leave your thoughts on the video down below. What did you think of the Aaron Rodgers and the Russell Wilson news? And what do you think of my predictions for the other quarterbacks? With all that being said, just make sure that you guys just interact with the channel, go watch other videos, and have a great day.